Oklahoma football fans, college football fans, welcome in. We've got a show today for you. It's not going to be a fun one. I am not going to sit here and try to tell you guys that there's anything good to take away from this loss. Texas remains the Red River champs. That's what we're going to talk about here today. Good afternoon. Hopefully many of you are doing better today. I know it's overreaction week. And I call it that because I really do think some of this is overreaction. Some of the comments and some of the concerns are overreactions. It's all valid. It's all valid, okay? And so I'm not trying to take that away from anyone, but welcome in. This is Oklahoma, the voice of college football. We are Sooner Sunday Live right here. We've got a lot to dive into because there are tons of questions about this Oklahoma Sooners teams. We're going to get to that. I want to answer a lot of comments from our post-game show. Post-game shows are our first reaction. This is after we had a sleep to take a little bit of reflection on the game that happened yesterday. We dive into a lot. So just stick around, okay? Because if you don't like me saying that it's overreactions, then just hear me out. Stick around for the show and just hear what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Hopefully it makes a little bit of sense. Because I do think there are some overreactions. I understand it, though. I understand it because this is the same team that we had to watch a season ago in terms of Brent Venables as the same coach. You've got really the same core issues, it feels like. And yesterday definitely felt like watching the 2024 Oklahoma football team. So I get it, okay? So stick around with me. We're going to go through some of these. I'm going to answer some of the concerns. And then we're going to go to some of the comments from yesterday. Also jump in the live chat because we are going to be jumping over to the live chat. Super chats and donations will be read on the show. So if you want to make sure that your chat is read on the show, just jump over there and drop us a super chat donation. If you want to help support the show a little bit further, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Join our membership program for as little as $2.99 a month. All you got to do is just scan that QR code on the screen or just click the link down in the description below and become a member today because we are trying to put out as much content as we can for Oklahoma fans and come on here even after a loss because last season we pretty much got numb to it. So coming on here after a loss, after a really bad loss, there is nothing good to take away from yesterday, okay? Hear that part first. There is nothing good that you can take away from that loss yesterday. There isn't. If you cut off the first half and just look at the first half, we might be able to say some good things because the defense was performing well. The offense struggled, but it was against a really good defense. Right at the end of the half, you started to get some concerns. Second half, really nothing good came from that second half. It was a defense that kept on trying to do something, and they just didn't get any backup. And I feel like that this team got demoralized. I will say, just like we were talking about yesterday, right away post-game, this was a team that came on the field without any fire in their step. This wasn't a team that you saw bouncing around and ready for this game. It really felt like a team that the reason why I felt nervous about this Texas game was because Texas had something to prove. Texas needed to come out and prove that Florida loss was a fluke, that they were just overlooking Florida. Texas needed this win because they don't have their backs are up against the wall. They don't have anything that they can do other than win. And so I knew that Texas was going to be fighting harder than you had ever seen all season long. I knew that Arch Manning was probably going to have a pretty good game. I didn't expect them to win. Okay, so I thought this game would go just about exactly how it did. I just thought Oklahoma would have been on the winning side of it. I thought even with the struggles that Oklahoma had yesterday, I thought we would have been talking about similar struggles outside of the turnovers, but they found a way to win. That's how we thought it was going to go. This is a good Texas team, so I think first and foremost, a lot of the overreactions are coming just from saying that this is a bad Texas team. This is the worst they've been in forever. This is the worst they've been in the last couple of years, but that's not saying much. This is still a good Texas team. This is a tough Texas defense. And I said that before this, and so I think everyone was just kind of expecting Oklahoma just to come in here and win because Texas is just so bad. That's not the case, and never was the case. Please point out where I said that Texas was bad, because I really did respect Texas coming into this game. And I do want to back up to preseason. So preseason, I know it was on my list of losses that I thought could happen, and my prediction could still come true, where I thought that you probably look at Texas and think that you might lose there. Maybe Tennessee, Alabama, LSU. I was thinking about 4 losses, and I think you could have probably swapped Tennessee for South Carolina, whatever. I really think that this is about where I expected Oklahoma to be, and I think Oklahoma looks better than I expected them to be coming into this game. Of course, after yesterday, it just brought up a lot of old feelings. So let's get into it. Like I said, there is no sugarcoating it. It was a bad performance, okay? And don't take anything I'm saying to mean that I think Oklahoma's fine, that they're going to go win a national championship, because I don't feel that way. I will say this. I think that it takes a lot of confidence away from this team, where I would sit here and tell you that going into the South Carolina game, that I feel confident that Oklahoma's going to win that, because before yesterday, I felt confident that Oklahoma would win that South Carolina game. I felt pretty confident that Oklahoma would beat Texas, and that if they didn't beat Texas, that it would be a close matchup, and you say, hey, we struggled with some things, the run game, obviously, but we have some things that we can take away from this one and turn it around. There was just nothing good in that game, and that's why there are some of these overreactions. And I call them overreactions because it's just too early for some of it. It really is. And, I know that there's going to be some in the live chat today. There were some in the comments all over on social media and on our show last night after the game. But just hear me out, okay? Because this is still a good team. Go back to before this Texas game, okay? Just go back and look at the first 5 games and tell me that you don't have confidence in that team. Some of that confidence was depleted from one game. And I get that. I understand that. I'm with you. I feel you there. But if Oklahoma can go back to those first 5 games and bring that team back out on the field for the next 6 games, do you not believe that they could win 4 or 5 of those next 6 games? Because I truly do believe that Oklahoma, if they were to play the way that they played in the first 5 games, they could win 4 or 5 of the next 6 games. I think 4 is reasonable, extremely reasonable. It might be reaching to try to win 5 more games, might be reaching, and I would concede that point. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities. So I want us to look at that, okay? So if you were to go back to the 5-0 Oklahoma Sooners and how confident everyone was, because Oklahoma fans all over were saying Texas sucks, that Oklahoma's going to just roll over them. I didn't feel that way. I felt like Oklahoma should win this game. I also understood that this is like a scary game, where kind of a trap game for Oklahoma, in the sense that they don't really have the sense of urgency to win this game the same way that Texas does. And so that's why I'm really not too upset about how this game went, because it went to how I kind of thought things could fall out for Oklahoma. And I don't think that this is just a game to look at and say that this is the end of Oklahoma's season, that there's no way Oklahoma bounces back, okay? And I know you're going to call me a sunshine pumper. I'm just being realistic with it, because, listen, if Oklahoma loses to South Carolina this week, South Carolina this week, I'm with you. I don't know how they get to 8-4. I think 7-5 is on the table. I don't know if they get to 8-4 if they lose to South Carolina. I really don't think that I am going to be overreacting with you guys at that point. But right now, I'm just not ready for it because they had one bad half of football. The first half wasn't bad. There was just that last drive that was bad. It was really stupid play clock management and really dumb call to try to heave it to the end zone with an injured quarterback. I don't care. I will say I don't think that I don't think that John Mateer had any kind of issues as far as his hand goes physically too much. I do think it bothered him to some point. I think it affected some of it. I don't think it bothered him. I think it affected him to some extent, but overall, that was not the issue with John Mateer. And he even said it post-game. It was all mental. His eyes weren't where it needed to be. There was, I believe, the second interception that he threw. It might have been the first, where he threw it over to the right, and I don't remember if it was Jaron Kanik over there maybe, but it was just a really dumb throw where he pump faked and then let it go. The pump fake really set up the interception, and so he hesitated too much. But if he would have pump faked that, looked off to the left, Isaiah Satania is down the field for field goal range, if not taking it to the house. So I think that that's the case. Anyways, we're gonna get into it. And I'm gonna talk about some of the main concerns. Let me get in here real quick and address some of the chat. All right, fire BV and go after Ohio State D-line coach or wide receiver coach. BV was a bad hire. Joe Castiglione knows it, which is why he is stepping away. Overreaction, Sooner Cowboys. You know I'm always going to support you in your overreactions, though. I am never going to tell you that you should not overreact or that you should not have, express your opinions. You don't fire a coach for going 5-1. You don't do that. And you can't look at last season. You can't look at the last 3 seasons at all. You have to look at this year. You have to look at this season alone. There's no reason to fire anybody for this season. 5-1, you can't fire anyone yet. 5-2, you're starting to heat up that seat, and you're saying, all right, we need to see something. If you end up going 5-5 after starting 5-0, all right, I'm with you. 5-4 even, I'm with you. You might as well just end it now, because at 5-4, how on earth are you going to get to 8-4 after starting 5-5? I'm with you if we want to go down that path, but we're kind of talking a lot. And then to your point too about James Franklin, he just got fired. I did see that. Watch out for Matt Rule from Nebraska going over and taking that job. My dad and my brother are Nebraska fans, and so I kind of teased them about that a little bit. But James Franklin is a totally different scenario where he is spiraling down terribly. He just lost to 2 teams that he should never have had any business even being close with. And then he also kind of got manhandled by Oregon. I know that you can say that it went to overtime, all this, but Oregon really owned that game in Happy Valley. So not only that, but then you also just have the last several years with James Franklin have been, we have to win the big game. You're winning all the little games. You have to win the big game. And then he starts losing the little games. All right, man. Like that's, I maybe it was too early to fire him. I might say that. I don't know. I haven't really followed Penn State close enough to say that much. Anyways, I am okay with all of your kind of throwing them out there like that. Anyways, let's see. I understand the reaction. This is from Stacy. She says, I understand the reaction because we know this team can do better than what they did this week. Tierney. I'm assuming you said Tierney said. Let's see here. Going down through... Oh, you could go 6-6 again. They could, and I'm going to try to keep my eye over here on the live chat as much as possible. I do want to point this out. Mateer should not have played. Simple. If John Mateer, hindsight's 2020. I don't think that I could still say at this point that John Mateer should not have played. Hindsight is 2020, but let's put ourselves in this scenario. Let's say Oklahoma went out there and lost with Michael Hawkins at quarterback. Would you then say, well, see, we should have played John Mateer? Because I think you would have. And so I understand that hindsight is 2020. I get that. And I'm with you, Man of Steel. I think if Oklahoma loses to South Carolina, we panic. Yes, and I am willing to concede that point. I really do think that if Oklahoma loses to South Carolina, that is definitely a sign that things are looking the exact same as they were a season ago. So I think that's definitely the case there. Anyways, let's get into it real quick. First big thing was just we're screwed. The season is over. We're only going to go 6-6 at best. There's no way we make it to the college football playoffs. There's no way we win more than 8 games, whatever. All of this I call overreaction because it was, again, one bad half of football, not even an entire game. The entire game was not bad. You cannot tell me that you went into halftime feeling like, crap, we're going to lose this game. No, you went into halftime saying, man, we really need to come out here and figure out some adjustments. And then Texas came out with all the adjustments. Oklahoma didn't. You can be upset about the last drive, like I said, but this was one bad half of football. And with this schedule for Oklahoma, just recognize Oklahoma is 5-1, guys. We're calling for people to be fired at 5-1. I understand that people are going to call me sunshine pumper for this, but really you're going to try to fire a head coach or even an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, wide receiver coach, tight end coach, running back coach. I don't know who you want to fire. I do know who some of the names are, and we'll get to that. But you're wanting to freak out and act like the season is over because of one bad half of football. Let's not forget that Oklahoma has done this. Plenty of teams have done this in the past where they just get dominated early on or even midway through the season, and then it's a wake-up call for them and they bounce back. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying it could. And 9-3 still gives Oklahoma a chance and some hopes at making the playoffs this year. And we've said that even since the offseason because they have one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedule in the nation. I think right now through the remainder of the season, when you just talk about these last 6 games, Oklahoma has the toughest schedule out of anyone. And so if they were able to go 9-3 with this schedule, there's still a fairly good chance that Oklahoma makes the playoffs. And I think 9-3 Oklahoma fans will be happy with that this year. Like, hey, you know what? We bounced back after Texas. We found some ways to win. We went through the brutal part of this schedule. And again, stop acting like Texas was just a bad team. Texas has a really good defense. They had a really good defensive line that was getting after this offensive line all game, and we knew that was going to be the case. Their defensive line was very tough, and I think Oklahoma fans are just acting like Texas had nothing out there. Like they just should have lost this game. They should have just not shown up. And I think that's ridiculous to think that Texas was bad by any means. I wasn't one of them that was calling Texas bad. Did I rejoice a little bit when we saw them beat Florida? You know what? I was actually one of the Oklahoma fans that said, man, it's kind of fun to watch your rival go down, but I hate that Texas isn't ranked because of this scenario. Because I know that when Texas loses and now they're unranked, they have more of a reason to bounce back and beat Oklahoma, especially in the Red River rivalry. Okay, so this is not a bad Texas team. This is a Texas team that could still win out, especially after what I've seen from Georgia this year. I think that's the toughest game on their schedule. Texas A&M towards the end of the schedule, I suppose that might be another tough one. This is a Texas team that could still win out and end up going 10-2. Making it to the SEC championship game. So I'm not going to sit here and act like Texas is not a good team. And I don't know what to make of Oklahoma right now because this was one bad half of football. Okay, so 5-1, you can't just throw your season out the window because you're 5-1. And so I don't like the main reason why I don't like talking about losses is because I feel like there are some overreactions to any losses. And again, like I said, I think overreactions are valid, and I think that they are justified for this Oklahoma fan base because of what you've had to go through for the last 3 seasons. I get it, okay? And so don't take my calling them overreactions as you have no right to feel this way. What are you thinking? No, I get it. I understand. I think it's valid. I think it is totally reasonable for Oklahoma fans to overreact in this moment. I really do. But no doubt that this loss takes a lot of confidence away from this team. I'm with you guys there. I'm not going to say that there's not a little bit less confidence in this team from my perspective because of what I saw in that Red River shootout, that Red River rivalry. I really do think that there was a lot of things that need to be fixed. On defense, there was some concerns, mainly being that the back end, I felt like the back end let some things up that they shouldn't have. and some miscommunications there. Overall, though, this defense was still good, and it's still one of the top defenses in the nation. I still think it's a top 3 defense in the nation, and they can still hold any offense to less than 20 points. They still proved that yesterday because the offense did not score 20 points. I suppose you still count the field goals against the defense. That was still on them for the most part, even though I think with the 3 turnovers, how much do you put some of those field goals on them? And I didn't look, to see how many points were off the turnovers. If you guys have that, please put that down on the chat for me, because I didn't put that down on my notes today. But, and then, you consider that the punt return, which you can talk about the blocks in the back. There was 3 of them that I saw on that, but I'm not going to sit here and act like that was the gut-wrenching, like the game is over play there. But even if they didn't have that big touchdown, that punt return for a touchdown, I don't think Oklahoma was going to come back. They just didn't show any life on offense until, way too late. So, I think that's one thing to look at there. Anyways, like I said, you lose confidence in this Oklahoma team because of the loss. And the way that they lost, they got dominated. The stat that keeps on being thrown out there, Oklahoma hasn't scored against Texas in 3 of the last 4 times that they've played Texas. They haven't scored a touchdown. And so I get that. That is frustrating. I get it. But it's still a good team. If you go back to when Oklahoma was 5-0, everyone... I don't know any Oklahoma fans that were looking at this 5-0 team and saying, man, we could win any game on the schedule. And then all of a sudden, because of one bad half against a really good Texas team, okay? One bad half, all of a sudden, just all hope goes out the window. I have hope that Oklahoma turns things around against South Carolina, answers some of the questions, maybe gets the running game going. I don't have any real high hopes about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Running game is atrocious. That is the worst. But the running game they find some answers on the back end of the defense. They start to work out some things that start to maybe make up for some of the weaknesses that they have, such as the running game. Start to use some of their wide receivers like Giovanni Gibson a little bit more, because I was a little disappointed that he really only had 1 catch all game yesterday. And then maybe they stopped. I feel like there was a lot of dropped passes. There was. Some of the dropped passes weren't really always on the receiver. I get that, but they were still through the hands. Maybe they can fix that kind of stuff. Ultimately, this didn't really come down to a whole lot other than just mental. Everything was mental. Oklahoma lost because they were not in this game. Texas was. Texas was the better team. Texas was fired up for this game. They wanted to win this game. They came into this game wanting to win. Oklahoma just came into this game expecting to win. That's what it felt like. And so hats off to Texas, golden hats off to Texas, and hand over to them, because they get to hold the trophy. And that's irritating as an Oklahoma fan. I get it. Like I said, I'm not saying that it's invalid for some of the overreactions. Some of the overreactions: fire Brent Venables, fire Bill Bedenbaugh, fire Joe John Finley, fire DeMarco Murray, whoever you want to fire. I get it, okay? I get it. But hold your horses, because like I mentioned a moment ago, you can't fire him for what he's done in the past. You have to fire him right now for what he's doing right now. And this team is 5-1. Nobody is getting fired at 5-1. And if they were, it would be ridiculous. And that person making the decision to fire him, they should be called upon to be fired themselves. Okay? And I think anyone with a rational mindset is believing that if you fire someone after going 5-1, you better be fired yourself, man. Because what the heck are you thinking firing a 5-1 coach? We have to wait until the end of the season regardless, okay? I don't think that there's really a scenario. And like I said, maybe 5-5. All of a sudden they come from 5-0 to 5-5. You want to fire Brent Venables now just to get it over with and start to look, then sure, I'm open to that. But that's looking into the future and acting as if this isn't still the same team that went 5-0. The same team that Oklahoma fans were excited about, and looking at going 5-0. That's the same team that Oklahoma fans are freaking out about right now, okay? So hold your horses. Nobody's getting fired at 5-1. And again, like I said, that would be ridiculous to fire your head coach or any coach at 5-1. Starting off with Brent Venables, he had this team feeling like they were really one step away from being able to win any game, and that was the run game. I don't think that the run game is going to get fixed this year. I really don't. I think there's ways to go about it. There's ways to maybe try to cope against the run game, and I don't think Oklahoma's going to win any championships because they don't have a run game. I really don't. I don't think Oklahoma can win any championships this season. I think they can be competitive, though, and I think they can walk away with still a good season ahead of them. I think that is what you look at from this season and say, you know what, if we can take a step in the right direction, and nobody was calling for Oklahoma to win a national championship this year. We want it. We're begging for it, but nobody's expecting that from Oklahoma this year. So we have to slow down on some of that talk. But, we're going to talk more about the running game, but Brent Venables is not going to get fired for going 5-1. And like I said, if you let him start this season, you can't all of a sudden just go back to last season and say that's the reason why you should have been fired this season, okay? So we've got to hold off on that one. Bill Bedenbaugh. Bill Bedenbaugh's the other one that people are calling for to be fired. And, this offensive line is injured. One of the biggest pieces went down early in the game in Derek Simmons yesterday. And so I'm not going to pretend that we should just overlook everything that this offensive line has done, because Bill Bedenbaugh does need to be questioned about, hey, why are we not aggressive enough on the offensive line? I know that there's injuries, but why are we getting injured so much on the offensive line? Are we not teaching these guys the correct techniques to make sure that they're not getting rolled up on or whatever it is? Because I think that's what happened to Derek Simmons, getting rolled up on from behind. There is techniques that you teach them. And so I really don't have much of a defense for Bill Bedenbaugh. He does need to be questioned, no doubt, but one thing that I do want to look at is that Bill Bedenbaugh is bringing in some good guys. Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foje, just picked up a couple more in the 2026 or 2027 class, probably both, really, if I go back and look. You got Caden Penny coming in, and then why am I drawing a blank on like three other great offensive linemen that Oklahoma has picked up? Cooper Hackett. So he's getting really good recruits right now, and that wasn't really happening before this last class. And those two guys that he got in this last class aren't really your main guys right now. Michael Fasusi kind of battling through some injuries. You only have two guys. Who is it? Luke Baklenko, and who else? I'm trying to think of who's not injured right now. You only have two guys at tackle right now. So you have to understand that that's hard to battle through. And so I'm not trying to defend Bill Bedenbaugh in that sense. I understand the frustration there because this offensive line is not what it used to be. Oklahoma was always known for their offensive line. They were. And so this offensive line has been atrocious for the last 2 or 3 seasons now. I would say the last 2 seasons, really, because 3 seasons ago, I think they were okay. They were manageable. Oklahoma was able to do some things. And so the last 2 seasons, though, it has been atrocious. And obviously in the SEC, you have to have an offensive line. You just as much as you have to have a defensive line, you have to have an offensive line. So I'm not going to sit here and act like that's a thing. And maybe it's a crazy way to think of it, but if you get rid of Bill Bedenbaugh, you don't get those big time recruits. And so do we hold off long enough to see if these big recruits and Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje, and then getting Cooper Hackett and Caden Penny in, if that's able to start to build something up? Do we hope for that, or is it just we're done waiting and we have to get rid of them regardless of losing big time recruits? I don't know what the answer would be on that. That's kind of above my pay grade. And I understand people upset with a lot of the coaching staff. Bill Bedenbaugh being one, Joe John Finley being another one that's being thrown out there. I get it. It's another one that's hard to defend because of what the tight end position has done really since Braden Willis. It's been pretty subpar, and I think one thing is that we've seen some great improvements from the tight end room this season. And so I think Joe John Finley deserves some credit for that, because Jaron Kanik, he is much improved throughout, and we're seeing even some things like his blocking. And I know you're going to call out the holding. I get it, but he's gotten aggressive on blocking, a lot more aggressive on blocking, and I see that. Has he been good at blocking? No, but I'm starting to see steps in the right direction there. But he still struggles in that room. But still, we have a playmaker in Jaren Kanak, and so I think Joe John Finley deserves something there. And he hasn't been targeted either, so that's been frustrating, and I don't think that really falls on Joe John Finley or Jaren Kanak. Caden Helms, he's shown some improvement that I don't think we've gotten to see on the field yet. Why is he not playing more? We can question that. Again, it goes back onto Joe John Finley. And right now, I feel like you've got 3 tight ends that are all good at something that the other one isn't. And it's hard to do something with that. And so does that fall on Joe John Finley? I guess that's for you to decide. Excuse me as I'm knocking a table over. I think that I can't defend Joe John Finley because I know that the tight end room has been atrocious here in the last several seasons. But I am seeing some improvements in that tight end room where I have to sit here and wonder. And then again, you get the recruits and how the recruits feel about Joe John Finley. And I don't know. I have a hard time defending Joe John Finley. I really do, and I'm not gonna lie about that. So when is it going to change? It needs to change right away, and this has to be the wake up call. Obviously, it was a long time ago, but it needs to be the wake up call to say, all right, we have to get Jaren Kanak better at blocking. We have to get Carson Kent better at running routes and catching the ball. We have to get Caden Helms. Whatever we need to work on there and get him in the game. I'm not really sure because we haven't seen it on the field yet. And so whatever it is there in that tight end room, it has to be fixed. And so I agree, Joe John Finley needs to be put, he's already on the hot seat, guys. But again, like I said, you just can't fire your coaching staff when you're 5-1. You can't. DeMarco Murray's the other one. Again, I don't really have much of a defense for that. I'm not the type to call for coaches to be fired either, though, whenever I just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't understand what's going on with Taylor Tatum. That is a really confusing one to me because we know the talent that he has, but it just sounds like his mindset's not there. Do you blame DeMarco Murray for that? I don't. I blame in that situation, I think I'm blaming the player if that's the case, but I don't really know what's going on there because we don't really have true definitive reporting on what's going on there. I don't know. What else? Javonte Barnes. Why can we not get Javonte Barnes to do certain things the right way? Do you blame that on DeMarco Murray? I don't know. Maybe it's just the player not picking things up. And guess what? Javonte Barnes really hasn't played much this year. Maybe it's the frustration that we haven't been giving Jaden Ott enough carries. That maybe it's the frustration that Jaden Ott isn't picking up blocks or doesn't want to block. I will say, go back to the play yesterday that everyone's picking apart where Jaden Ott didn't pick up the block. That one definitely seemed like he was setting the edge for, I think it was Deion Burks coming around. And Deion Burks just cuts up field right into 2 defenders instead of going on the outside where he had open field and blocking. And so I don't blame Jaden Ott for that one. I think he was coming around and setting the edge on the outside. Go back and watch that. I know I'm right. And so that play I don't, but I do understand throughout the rest of the season we've seen it. And so that's definitely there. Do we blame DeMarco Murray for that, or is that just a Jaden Ott thing? Is Jaden Ott also nervous about that shoulder injury still? You still got to blame him and tell him, like, hey, you've got to get over it. You just got to be smarter with how you're blocking. Don't block with your shoulder. Block with your hands. Be smart about where you're putting your body and how you're positioning your body. Xavier Robinson, why is he not getting the ball more? Why is he not getting more play time? Why are we putting him in basically at running back 1? He wasn't. He was still kind of running back 2. I saw where people were kind of calling him running back 1 just because I think he took the first snap, if I remember correctly. But he wasn't getting any snaps for himself. What are we doing there? I do know that the recruits and the players love DeMarco Murray. They feel like he's a good coach. He's also a coach that gets in there and runs the reps in spring practice and fall practice when his guys aren't able to get in there. And so, I think that it just tells me that maybe there's more to that story that we just don't know. And I don't know about DeMarco Murray. I really don't. And so I agree with the concerns. I just don't know the full story there. So bottom line, you just can't fire anyone after going 5-1 with one half not going your way. It was literally one half of football. If you go back and look at the stats, even the offensive stats, I was pretty content with the offensive stats in the first half outside of the turnovers. I was pretty content with the first half stats from this offense and from the defense. Obviously, the defense, holding them to only 3 points. So the second half was where everything fell apart. What was wrong in that second half? Why was there no energy coming out of the tunnel in the second half? That's what it falls down to. But you still have the second half of the season in front of you. You have to give them more than just one loss. Just because you lose one game does not mean you fire a coach. And I know it was Texas. You lost against Texas. You lost 3 out of 4 against Texas. You got blown out 3 out of 4 against Texas. When you lose to Texas, you're getting killed. I understand that. But it's similar to like how Ohio State fans were calling for Ryan Day to be fired just because he couldn't beat Michigan. But then he goes on and wins the national championship. So would you rather him beat his rival, or would you rather him win games? Because you know what? I will give up the Texas game if it means you're winning 10, 11 games. It might sound stupid to say that. I'll give up one game if it means we get to win the rest of them. I don't like that. I agree with you. I don't like that, but I'll take it. Let's find a way to win that game. I agree with y'all. I think we need to, man, I just said y'all like naturally. I must be kind of blending in with some of the Southerners. But anyways, I do agree that you've got to win this game, and you can't lose this game by getting blown out. You can't. This game matters way too much to the program, way too much to the fan base. And Texas is Oklahoma's only rival at this point now. And so you have to win that rivalry. And I get that. And I'm not trying to sunshine pump. I'm not trying to do anything other than just to say, let's slow down and hold off some of the overreactions for when they are deservingly so. And I think that deservingly so would be you lose 2 in a row in SEC play. Right now, you're 1-1 in SEC play. Turn that around and go 4-1 in SEC play, and let's see how we feel about that. I'm being optimistic. I know that, but let's see. Another big concern was, are we sure about Ben Arbuckle? And then I'll get to the live chat. What would you tell me that Ben Arbuckle is really backing? You know, what would you tell me that he's lacking right now, and why we should back away from Ben Arbuckle right now? Because I don't see anything. And I do think that there was one thing yesterday that concerned me, and I'll get to that. And we've already talked about it to some extent. There was one thing that was concerning to me yesterday. He did not call a very good game plan yesterday, but I think a lot of that was trying to tend to your strengths. And it was a tough game to try to call yesterday. It really was, because you're going against a tough Texas defense with an injured quarterback. I don't care what you want to say about it. He was injured. It definitely affected him to some point, at least mentally. If it wasn't affecting him physically, it was affecting him mentally. So, you know, you're trying to cope with all of that. It was a tough game to call yesterday. And so I will give some slack there. This is the first game that we saw from Ben Arbuckle that I think we were all just like, Ben, what are you doing? That was the first game. And again, it really just came down to the second half for the most part. But what were the expectations going into the season, and why would we raise those expectations now? Because expectations, I think we were all saying, let's have a top 50 offense, and that means we're moving the ball and keeping some possession in our favor and helping this defense out, and we're going to win just fine. If you go down there and not throw an interception there at the end of the second half, and you're able to just kick the field goal there instead, 3 points helps this defense a lot more, and then it also doesn't give Texas all that momentum going into halftime. So that was a big one, and I don't know if that goes on Ben Arbuckle completely. It does go on him, for sure. I'm not taking the blame off of him, but how much of that is to blame on him, I don't know. I don't know what the play call was supposed to have been there. To me, it looked like, hey, find someone deep and heave it deep. I say you find somebody deep, and if you think you can hit him, you hit him. If not, you just sail that thing out of bounds. Honestly, my play call would have been, let's run the ball, take our timeout, and kick a field goal, because I'm okay with going up 9-3 at halftime. That feels pretty good. Anyways, you can't raise the expectations on Ben Arbuckle now just because he had one bad game. You can't raise the expectations. He's still got that top 50 offense that we need, and he's still capable of making a lot of really good improvements with this offense. And I think he will turn some things around. I think he'll start to find some tricky run plays to run to open certain guys up and find ways. I have that faith in Ben Arbuckle. I don't think there's any question there. But with the run game, why has the run game been so bad? This offensive line is not blocking well. I'm not really sure why they're not picking up the blocking schemes, because pass blocking really hasn't been bad this season, and it wasn't bad yesterday either. It wasn't. Go back and look at the tape. It really wasn't bad. There was times when the pressure got back there a little quick, but that's where you just have to have a quicker reaction and get the ball out a little bit quicker. And I'm not putting all of that on John Mateer, but some of it was him putting himself into pressure and just mentally not there, rather than just trusting the pocket, climb up in the pocket and deliver a ball. And I think the pass blocking has been night and day difference from last season. It has been much better this season. Run blocking has been really bad though. But then I think the play calling was really confusing. Blaylock, Ott, and X. Those are the three backs that I think should be getting about 10 to 15 carries per game, in my opinion, between the three of them. Each of them should be getting about 10 carries a game. Maybe not 10 carries like in one game for each of them, because I don't think you run the ball 30 times per se. But there were 70 plays ran on offense yesterday, and there were only 4 or 5. I don't know how many first down plays there were. I didn't count that. But only 4 or 5 running back running plays were called on first down. Why are we not running the ball on first down? That was my big concern with yesterday, with Ben Arbuckle's play calling. My big concern was, why are we not running the ball on first down with a running back? And why are you running John Mateer if he's got the injured hand? I understand running him on a few plays here and there, but I think he had 14 total rushes. I know not all of them were called run plays, but there was probably, I want to say probably 10 of those were called run plays for John Mateer. And, so I just felt like that was really strange to me, that you weren't running the ball on first down. You've got to run it on first down. You've got to give your guys a chance. And guess what? If you don't make it on first down, then whatever, because incomplete pass is just as bad as a no gain on the ground. In some ways it's worse. So I don't know why you're not forcing the run game to work itself out. So there was only 4, maybe 5, because I went through and counted them, and I don't really know if you count one of them. And so I want to say only 4 running back run plays on first down. That maybe 5. Why are we not running it on first down? That was my big concern with yesterday. So the running game has to get fixed. This team will not win anything spectacular. They will not win many games if they can't get something going in the run game. And it's tough to sit here and try to act like they can win anything, because the run game is non-existent so far at this point in the season. And I get that. But time to jump over to the overreactions in the chat. No, I want to see it, guys. Let me have it, because I'll try to answer some of your concerns if I can. That's what the point of this show today was. Getting a little bit of a miscommunication with my mouse here now. So we might not be able to get anything done here. Let's see. We'll see if we get anything running. Might just have completely nothing going on the mouse right here. I think it might have just completely crapped out on me. Here. We'll see if we can't pull this up another way. All right. Technical difficulties, but we will make things happen regardless, because we know how to work on the fly. I'm not going to be able to get to all of the comments, but I do know that I saw a few of them, so I apologize for that, guys. Just need to change out batteries in my mouse, it looks like, and I don't have any batteries on hand. But anyways, this is where having a producer really would help at certain times. But we'll make it work. We will make it work. I do see that Jonathan, he said, is there any truth that the RBs are getting worse under DeMarco? I don't think that the running backs are getting worse under DeMarco, but I do think that, again, we're not really giving the running backs that seem to deserve it the chance to prove it. That's the big thing for me. I'm not seeing that. And I do want to see real quick if I'm able to do something here to be able to kind of get some of your chats in. I do know that we for sure will get to some of the chats from yesterday, just because some of the chats they were well worth kind of answering to. If I can click on the right one here, let's see. But no, I think with the running backs, I think you've got guys like Xavier Robinson. I think should be out there a lot more, and he didn't get hardly any touches yesterday, hardly any. You got to get him the ball. And then I think, you look at what Torrey Blaylock has done. He's been working really hard, and he only had 11 touches. If that's your main back, I need him to have like 15 touches. And then I need maybe 7 touches for Xavier Robinson and Jaden Ott. I need Jaden Ott to get something going, and it's just not there. All right, so I'm not going to be able to get to the rest of the live chat there, guys. Actually, there's a way we can get to the live chat. There is a way. We will make a way. We'll pull it up on the phone here because we're not going to completely ignore all of the live chat. You guys are awesome. Donations will be read live on the show, so any donations, super chats, if you want to drop those in the chat, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And then if you want to join, become a member today, just click either scan that QR code or click the link down in the description below. And you can join for as low as $2.99 a month. Become a member, help support us here on the channel. But anyways, let's go through here real quick, see what we got. Going over to Sooner Cowboys, he says 6 and 7 seasons, 0 bowl wins, losses to Kansas first time in 25 years, and Navy 3 years of getting blown out by Texas. It's time to move on from BV. Okay, but you say that now, but okay, let's just be like super optimistic right now, okay? Let's just pretend that BV ends up turning things around and wins 10 games this year. Are you still feeling that way? Because I just don't think that's going to be the case. So, I think I understand what you're saying, but let's just say that were the case. BV goes 10 wins this year, wins a playoff game. Are you all of a sudden, are you going to backtrack and say, "Hey, remember when I said that? My bad. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what we can do here." Because again, going back to the 5-0 Oklahoma team, we felt good about that team. We did. We felt good that 5-0 team really could have done something good, and so I have a hard time looking at one bad half and all of a sudden saying that Oklahoma is just dead in rights and not going to be able to do anything. Anyways, JT says Oklahoma lost because they can't run the ball. Teams like Texas can keep 4 linemen in the box to stop the run, and everyone else drops in coverage, which mitigates the passing attack, which is the only hope. Yeah, and that's exactly right. You've got to find a way. You've got to find a way to get the run game going. And you're not ever going to get the run game going if you have 11 rushes on your back. You had 15 rushes between your backs. Only 15. Stop running your quarterback and force your running backs to get something going. I don't know how you get it going. And especially if you're going to lose like this anyways, nothing else is working, force that to get going. I think against Kent State, it should have been forced to run the ball 40 times. I don't get it. And so, you're not going to win games without it. I see Bevo's bodyguard is in the chat. What's up, Bevo? Congratulations on your win. I told you I would tell you that. I'm not a sore loser. Sometimes I can be a sore winner, but I'm also not a sore winner. And so, but congratulations. Texas earned it, man. Texas earned it. So your team is still a really good team this year. I think Texas fans should keep their heads up because they bounced back from the Florida loss. And if I'm a Texas fan, I'm sitting here saying, all right, let's win out. Let's win out and prove that, hey, this is still a good team. And Arch Manning is getting better week in, week out. He really is. So, hats off to you, golden hats off to you. He says, it's been 736 days since OU scored a touchdown versus Texas. OU has not scored a touchdown on Texas since being in the SEC. You are right. And it sucks to say that. But congratulations to your team. Back to Stacy. She says, Josh, this may be a question for the offseason. What do we need to do to fix the running game and offensive line? You got to get your offensive line healthy and figure out a way to keep them healthy. I don't know what they're doing to get hurt, but you've got to find a way to get them healthy. That's the big thing, Stacy. And without your offensive line, you're not going to get a running back or a running game going. Let's see here. Kind of going down through the chat. Like I said, super chats and donations will be read. I will make sure that we get to those if you put those in here. Jonathan says, I hear people say this can't be fixed this year, but Texas seems to have figured out their O-line and run game yesterday. Exactly. That's my point. There is a way. Do we have faith that they're going to find a way? Probably not. And I understand saying, like, I don't have confidence in this team anymore because of what I saw yesterday. I understand that, but to completely throw the season out the window just because of the bad game, that's the part that I don't understand. You can't completely give up just because one bad half. It doesn't ruin your season. It really doesn't. So just hang tight. Let's see what happens against South Carolina. If Oklahoma wins 34-6 against South Carolina, I need Sooner Cowboys and whoever else is being a Debbie Downer in the chat. I need you guys to come on here and be like, Josh, let's get this thing going. Let's get this thing going, okay? I don't think that's going to happen. And if Oklahoma loses to South Carolina, or even just has an embarrassingly close game against South Carolina and squeezes it out, I'm going to come on here and I'm going to tell you guys, hey, I'm on your side now. I'm very skeptical about the rest of the season. If you're close with South Carolina, because that gets you at 6-1, you're really gonna have to fight to get 3 more wins through Tennessee, on the road at Tennessee, Ole Miss at home. On the road at Alabama, Missouri, LSU at home. You're gonna struggle really hard to get 3 out of those 5. So I will come on here with you, but if Oklahoma wins convincingly, you have to at least be willing to join my side partially. Just be like, all right, hey, I'm giving them a chance. Let's see what it is. No, you guys know I love you guys, and especially Sooner Cowboys. You're always in the chat, so I'm gonna give you a hard time, but you know I support you. Modern Day Caveman says a lot of our older boosters alum would stop donating if Bedenbaugh is fired, only because he's the last coach from Stoops' era. Yes, but I don't think that holds you back from firing a coach if he's bad. If you have a reason, and let's put this into perspective too. I don't think that this would really necessarily happen. I don't have a lot of faith that this would happen, but let's say Oklahoma was to fire Bill Bedenbaugh and go out and get an offensive line coach who's really good, and all of a sudden Oklahoma wins the Joe Moore Award in year 2 of this new offensive line coach. Those boosters will come back. So it's not a reason to just not try. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying, though. I definitely do. Bevo's bodyguard, did Kanik even have a catch yesterday? I don't think he did, dude. And you know what? Like, that's a big reason. Bevo, your team came out and said, these are our playmakers. Wisner is a playmaker, and he wants to fight through whatever injuries he's going through. I did think, like, you're putting a lot of work on Wisner where you really shouldn't have. I get it. I hope Texas rests him against, like, Kentucky and some of these games that you should win. Don't overlook your opponents, but I hope Texas rests him, because from this point on, I mean, honestly, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you should want Texas to win out, because you can't lose to Texas like that and then have them flop on this season. You need Texas to win out. So Bevo, I mean, you guys, Texas came out here with the mindset of, here's our playmakers, here's how we're going to get them the ball, and here's how we're going to do it. They had a really good game plan. Oklahoma didn't put that game plan together. Here's our playmakers. You got Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, Giovanni Gibson, for goodness sakes, Jaron Kanik, and you didn't get them the ball at all. So yeah, it was just one of those games that you didn't really put anything together, and that was really hard. To answer your question, though, Jared Kinnick did have 3 receptions for 20 yards. It didn't feel like that at all. Did not. And 20 yards is nothing. So, yeah, I mean, see, Bevo's smart enough to come in here and be like, hey, I found how you guys probably could have roasted us a little bit. You really could have. But instead, you guys didn't even try it. So Bevo's smart enough to think of that. Anyways, let's see here. Kind of going through the chat again. Super chats and donations will be read on the show. So if you got something that you want to go over real quick, then please drop that in the chat. If you want me to keep on talking about this loss, then I'll do that. Let's go to Derek real quick. He's got a good one here. He says, should have let DeMarco go to Ohio State years ago. Same stuff every year. If you can't see that, you're likely the same person that says Mateer's thumb was okay. If we play like yesterday, Mizzou, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Bama going to smack us. I agree. If Oklahoma plays like they did yesterday, they probably go 5-6. Whatever. What's the record? 5-7. If they play like they did yesterday, no doubt they go 5-7. But that's what we're putting our hope in, is that they don't play like they did yesterday, because they didn't play like that for 5 straight games. Why would they play like that again for 5 or 6 more straight games? You know what I mean? So, but to your point with DeMarco, so yeah, I don't think that Mateer's thumb didn't seem to be the problem. I really don't think it was. It was all. I mean, it was the problem mentally. I don't know if that was the mental blocker. Maybe it was the problem. I do think that there was some, like the interception at the end of the half. I feel like that had to have just come off his thumb wrong. Just most of it though is just look at where his eyes are and look at where his eyes aren't. And there's several plays that you can break down and be like, hey, why is he looking over here when right there was open? Why did he hesitate on this when he was looking at it and then go away from it? And throw it too late. That was the biggest problem. So it was a lot of mental more than the physical. But yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Let's see here. a lot of pessimism, guys. A lot of pessimism. All right. How are we going to run it with the back on first down if we can't on any other? So when you run it on 2nd and 10. You're now putting yourself in a really bad third down position. If you run it on 1st and 10 and you get 2 yards, guess what? That's okay. You can overcome 2nd and 8 or even 2nd and 10. When you're putting yourself in a 3rd and long time and time again, that's where you hurt yourself. First down is the down to try to force it to get it right. First down is the down to do that. You don't do it every first down, or else you're just going to give away your playbook. So I'm not saying that every first down you run the ball, but you've got to find those first downs to run the ball, and you've got to do it. OU Rhino says, what happened to Barnes? I don't really know. I'm not sure if he's going through an injury right now. I haven't really looked into him, and so I haven't heard much from him. But I am kind of curious about that as well, because there's times where he really would have gone out there and done pretty well. Lone Wolf says, has Arbuckle opened up his playbook? Is still waiting on a special moment? He's opened it up to an extent. There's still more that he's got there that he's not showing. I think you saw some new things yesterday. It's just it wasn't working because Texas has a good defense. They do. And so, again, just be patient with Ben Arbuckle, because I think some fans are raising the expectation for him now just because of the loss. And I don't think that's really fair for fans to do. The expectation wasn't for him to have a top 20 offense this year. Archie QB1, he says, I was clutch versus Choklahoma, #1 defense. Give me credit. I will give Arch some credit. He played really well yesterday, and he's improving. I've seen it throughout the season. Game 1, he looked horrible. Against Florida, he had like a handful of bad reps. A lot of it has just been his offensive line. And his offensive line did just enough to kind of keep him going yesterday. I wouldn't say that they did well, because the defensive line still penetrated. The offensive line, give credit to the offensive line. They were really good at getting away with some crucial calls. They really did a lot better job yesterday. They really did. And Arch Manning did a much better job as well. Mars Jams, Oklahoma #14 AP poll. Where are you putting? Where are you at Texas behind with 2 losses? What is Texas ranked in that poll? I didn't even look at the AP poll this morning when they dropped it. Are they ranked now? I would assume they should be ranked now, right? Because they were just barely out. Let's see, rankings. We'll go to that real quick. Where is Texas? Are they not ranked, really? That is kind of shocking. If that's the case, that needs to be changed. Oh, there they are, 21. So, yeah, I think that's about right. This is still a good Texas team, guys. Being behind Notre Dame is kind of a joke. Georgia Tech, maybe deservingly so. Yeah, man, being behind Notre Dame is a joke. But number 21, I think that's about fair. I'll talk more about the rankings. I'll actually try to get my rankings put out this week as well because I haven't done that in a few weeks. But yeah, I think there's quite a bit. Let's see. Kind of going through here, guys. Trying to get to some of you guys that don't comment very often. Amero too. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Aimero. Amero. Arbuckle Air Raid is not suitable for the SEC. Look at all the great teams in the SEC, A&M, Georgia, etc. They run the ball well, eat up clock, and win trenches. Oh, you can't do that. He doesn't have an air raid system, first of all, but I do agree with you. The air raid system that he was doing yesterday is not going to work, and that's why Oklahoma lost. Oklahoma lost yesterday because he was running too much of an air raid type offense, and it can't happen. You can't run that and expect to win games. That's not typical. But Oklahoma's got to find a way to make the run game work. They really do. They've got to find a way, and they're not forcing the run game at all. They're not getting it going. So ultimately, I think that's what you really need. Norma D, we were definitely many times. Let's see. Oh, sorry. There were definitely many times that material wide open receivers and simply didn't read well. Can't blame Arbuckle for that. Exactly, and I think that's a Texas fan too. By looking at the, excuse me if I'm wrong on that, but it kind of looks like possibly a Texas fan by the profile picture. It's really small on my phone, so apologies, guys. My mouse is broken, so it's not working there. But yeah, I think it really was. It was a lot on Mateer that you can't blame on anybody else but Mateer, and he took ownership for that. So that's one thing you can look at and say, I feel good about that. Anyways, let's jump on. Oh, okay. My bad, Noma. Noma D. It's all right. Sooner. Right back to you. I apologize. It almost, as small as it is on my phone, it almost looked like Bevo wearing the hat, but I can see it now. Is that you wearing a hat? Who is it? I can't see the profile picture close enough. Sorry. Anyways, Sooner Cowboys, fire everybody. Fire everybody. You know what? Yeah, let's just fire everybody. Get rid of everybody. Mars Jams, what is up, man? I think I might have already read your chat a couple times, but he says Arch best games were against low division teams. No, his best game was against Oklahoma yesterday. That was his best game because it was against a good defense, and he found ways to get the ball into like that. What was it? Was it a third down? Was it a third down that he ended up getting out of the end zone right out of? Was it Grayson Halton diving at his feet in the end zone? And he finds his receiver. I mean, there was a lot of really good plays that Arch made yesterday. There was a couple of times where he used his legs and just did what he had to do to win. He didn't put up the stats that you would expect from a Heisman winner or anything like that, but he looked so much better yesterday, and so I have to give him some credit there. That's my Twinkie the kid hat. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's small, so I couldn't see that. Jay Jones says, why was Hawkins never put in a game when Mateer was obviously struggling? So I did see a comment on social media kind of similar to this. If we were so quick to put Hawkins in over Jackson Arnold, why didn't we do it yesterday? Honestly, last year, I didn't think that you should have put Hawkins in against Auburn, and then Texas as well. Those two games, and then South Carolina, obviously. I don't think he should have started in those games. Pulling him out, putting him in that Tennessee game, I get it. I don't know. I really kind of questioned that as well. Hindsight's 2020. It really is. If it were up to me, I probably would have pulled him and put Hawkins in the second half just to say, John, listen, you're not done as the starter. You are obviously the starter. You're just not having your day. You're not. It's a bad day for you. You have to do something. And so, yeah, I think that. I agree with you. I think that's what they should have done. But hindsight's 2020. Oklahoma lost. That's the main part of it. They did. They lost. It was one loss though, guys. That's all I'm saying. I'll get to some of the comments real quick from yesterday. Let me pull it back up because I was dumb and closed this out if I can get it pulled up. But I think. Ultimately, when you look at what was happening yesterday, you got to look past that game and recognize that it was one bad half of football, and we have to hope for something better. If something better doesn't happen against South Carolina, let's have a different discussion next week. 100%. From yesterday, Tim Tapp, what's up with Satania fair catching all these kickoffs within the 10-yard line when he has some room to run? Is that him or the coaching staff telling him to do it? I believe it's the coaching staff telling him to do it. Why? I don't know. I had the same concerns yesterday. Like, we need something to pop off, and Isaiah Satania returning a kickoff really could be that spark that Oklahoma needed. So I don't know. I really don't. I'm assuming that that's the coaching staff telling him, let's play things safe. Throw the safe crap out the window. You got to get something going. Anyways, I'll jump back to the live chat here in just a moment, guys. But gotta give it to these Texas fans. That's Cartero91. He says, OU fears Texas. Hats off to you guys. You guys get to hold the golden hat yet another year. Awesome show. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so Nicholas, he says, awesome show. Enjoy the conversation. I don't think it was really ready mentally after my injury. It took time for my confidence to come back and for movements to feel normal. I think he was nervous about his hand getting re-injured, and I think his chemistry was a little off. The timing was off. He was not aggressive in his running, and he didn't look confident in the pocket, was also not seeing receivers open. I think he was thinking too much and not playing. His injury affected his play mentally. I think he will bounce back. Next week, I'm not jumping ship, Boomer. That's exactly what my thoughts were. I think the injury may not have affected John Mateer much physically. It probably did a little bit, but there was a tight spiral on those balls. He was able to heave it deep. We saw that. It wasn't on target, but I don't think it wasn't on target because of the injury. I think a lot of it was mental. Some of it might have been the injury still. Maybe that grip was still probably an issue, especially towards the end of the game. It was all, just like you said there, Nick, I think there was so much where it was just he's not seeing the field the way that John Mateer sees the field. And, it was over. I have to shout out the Texas fans. Hook 'em. Good night, Soonies. Congratulations to you guys. Congratulations. I'm not a sore loser. Stacy said yesterday, Boomer, despite the loss, it's possible to get back together. Let this loss be a fire under everyone. Absolutely. That's what you got to look at. Texas boy said, Hook 'em. I read all last week how it was going to be a blowout and Texas was frauds, but unranked Texas won and proves they were better. They were the better team. No excuses, OU fans. You had your starting QB. There's no excuses other than the fact that there's no excuses. There is reasons, though. The reason is that Oklahoma didn't show up to play. Texas was the better team yesterday. So hats off to you, Texas boy. You did not see that Texas sucks and can't win this game from me. You didn't see that from me. I will promise you that. Because I gave Texas the respect from the beginning of the season. I had some questions about them. I didn't think they'd win because you just haven't seen that spark from them at all this season. But I did have that feeling like that spark could come alive against Oklahoma. If there's one time that it would have happened, it would have happened yesterday, and it did. Michael, he says, I saw the same thing I saw last year with no excuses. The offensive line sucked. Bill Bedenbow might be a great position coach, but there's no Joe Moore award here. No collusion. X had no idea what Z was doing. Creating individuals for the NFL ain't winning OU ball games. And right now, they're not even creating individuals for the NFL. So, I get that. And it really did feel like this was a 2024 Oklahoma team playing yesterday. It really did. It looked just like that. Let's see here. Robert said, until someone on the team can figure out how to run the ball, they're just wasting everybody's time. Every possession I can remember, he was 3 and 10 or more. Yeah, I mean, it felt like it. It felt like it. So, you've got to find a way to run the ball. I don't know how you do that when the offensive line isn't clicking. You've got to figure something out to get the run game going. You have to force the run game to go. You can't just expect it to go. It's got to happen. I don't have the answers for it, but I don't get paid to give the answers for it either. Kevin said, if this bunch thinks BV is a head coach material, that is laughing emoji. The guy has proven he's not head coach, clueless in big games. This team is not done losing. They can't even spell it right. This is not the Big 12. BV is terrible head coach. Excuses. Texas is not that good. Texas is that good. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. I think Texas at least wins 9 games this season. I think they could drop one to Texas A&M or Georgia. But I think they're back on the right track, and they're going to show that they're just as good as I expected them to be in the offseason. They lost a game they shouldn't have against Florida. It doesn't mean that they're a bad team. Let's see here. We already shouted out Bevo, Bevo's bodyguard. Let's see. Oklahoma has no run game, no rhythm, and a quarterback that can't go one game without throwing a pick. He can go one game without throwing a pick, but no, yeah, he can't keep on throwing interceptions. It's got to be fixed. No run game too. No rhythm in the run game. It's hard to get rhythm when you don't get the run game going. Okay, so Tim Tapp, going back to him, he says, I get what you guys are saying, but last year we were so quick to pull Arnold. He was playing terrible. How come we don't do the same with Mateer this year? Again, I'm not sure why we wouldn't have pulled him in the first half and just let Hawkins go out there and finish this thing out. I guess after the first half, you're still up. I think in the second half, when you throw that other interception, you're down to 3 interceptions now. At that point, I probably do just say, hey, we're not looking good right now. This second half is going downhill. We've got to do something to give us a spark. Hawk, you got to go in and do something. I agree. It's probably what I would have done, and in the moment, I was saying that. So hindsight's 2020, though, guys. And going back to Tim Tapp, he says Eddie Pierre-Louis has a mean streak to him, and he's very physical. How come he's not playing? I think he's better than Ozida. We need a bunch of somebodies like EPO. I don't know, man. I really don't know. It's tough. It's tough. Texas boy called out Chad and said OU's BV is 1-1 against Texas. Terrible take. LOL. He's 1-3. I agree. I think that was probably a bad take from Chad. I'll tell him that to his face. I understand what he's saying. First year, I can say that, like, all right, you can't really hold him too accountable for that. Like, it wasn't his team. He didn't have anything going for him. Injured quarterback going into the game. He had a lot of reasons to not be able to win that game against Texas. So I understand that one a little bit. Year 2, though, you beat Texas. Year 3, you get blown out by Texas again. And I understand injuries and all that, but you got to find a way to be competitive. Got to find a way to be competitive. So at the very least, he's 1-2 if you want to play that. But he is 1-3. So I agree with you, Texas boy, but Texas fanboy, whatever. Anyways, let's see real quick. Who's in the chat? Any donations or super chats? That's what we're going to read on the show, but we will go to Thunder OU sooner. He says DeMarco Murray has to go because you can't develop running backs. Developing running backs is not good. John Mateer should not have been playing in this game. A lot of hindsight. Maybe he shouldn't have. Maybe he shouldn't have been playing in that game. I don't know. Hindsight's 2020. If Michael Hawkins plays, does Oklahoma lose just as bad, if not worse? I don't know. I really don't know. Benny Laws, he says, offensive line is a mystery. We can pass block just as much as the next guy, but running block doesn't compute. Either A, every run play is an RPO, or B, we have a weird offensive line that no pass block, but no run block. I agree with you. I really think it's a mystery to me. I don't understand it. I don't get paid to understand it, really. Maybe I'll try to break that down and try to understand why. It really is confusing because they're good at pass blocking. They're solid in pass blocking. They've done just fine all season long in pass blocking. Anyways, Lone Wolf says if Hawkins isn't better than a broken thumb Mateer, he should just transfer, in my opinion. I don't know if he's not better than. I mean, John Mateer has the fracture in his thumb, but it wasn't like that. Huge shout out to Craig. Craig gave us a $10 donation. He says, as a Sooner fan and alum, I believe that we're just school with history at this time. We're not in the OSU, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, or Texas discussions. First of all, thank you, Craig. Thank you so much for the donation. I agree with you. I mean, to an extent, I think we are that right now. We're not in the discussions of being in the top 5. We're not in the discussions of being a contender. And when you play like this, you're not going to win games. You're not going to win important games. You're not going to win big games. So I think you absolutely have to get those big games and start to win them. I think right now, with the way you played yesterday, I understand the confidence level going down through the floor. But with a big bounce back against South Carolina, I think you start to gain some of that confidence back. So we'll have to see. The time will tell. Time will tell. Let's see. Any other good chats? Thank you again, Craig. That was very, very much appreciated. All right, let's see here. 7-5. 7-5. That's what I'm seeing. You guys think 7-5? Let's say 8-4. All right, let's. Okay, I think I see what you're saying now. So Jay Jones says, what record cost BV his job? Anything below 9-3? I think 7-5. He's probably gone. 8-4. You hold on and you say, man, we have to see improvement, and fans are not going to be happy about it. They're not going to be happy about it. But I think 8-4. He keeps his job. 9-3. You've got a shot at the championship. You've got a shot at the playoffs, and especially if you're able to get a run game. Excuse me. Sorry. If you're able to get a run game, why not? So yeah, I think 8-4 is kind of like nothing less than 8-4. 7-5. I really think he could lose it. It's a big buyout, so it's hard telling. Let's see here. Stacy says 10-2. 10-2, baby, and that's what I like to see. No, I don't. I mean, I think 10-2 is still on the table, because if we're being honest, I was the one that said I think Texas is a loss from the beginning of the season. Now Oklahoma looked better and Texas looked worse. That's why I picked Oklahoma to win this game. But we didn't expect Oklahoma to just look so empty on offense and without any kind of life. So that's the main thing there. Sooner Cowboys thinks that right now Sooners are going 6-6 or 7-5. Yeah, I think 6-6, 7-5. BP's probably out the door. But guys, I appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to support the show a little further. Become a member today. Just scan the QR code or click the link down in the description below. Click that link in the description below. Become a member for as low as $2.99 a month. All right. It helps us keep on pumping out content. We've got stuff going on Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time right now. Of course, that's whenever I'm not on the road. And then on Mondays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, join Chad and Tierney Smith for Sooner Smith's Tuesday with me on Oklahoma Sooners Live here on the channel, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thursdays for our preview show, and we'll probably have guests and stuff like that throughout the rest of the season. Guys, we've got a lot of season ahead of us. Don't get too down on this team just yet. Hang in there. Let's see what happens against South Carolina. We'll be back to preview South Carolina a little bit on Tuesday and Thursday. Of course, join Sooner Smith tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time as well. Appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.